Right, what's up everybody, and I hope you're doing well today. It is a fine Saturday, and been enjoying my birthday week. Anyway, today I have a very much requested video guide, and I will have a max roll, of course, for the Whirling Slash build. Now, Whirling Slash is the flavor of the month. I understand that. There's been so many variants out. I've seen Titan, I've seen Lich even, I've seen Ritualist, and of course we've seen Amazon because I've been streaming it. And I saw the other versions they use Incinerate, and they looked interesting. It looked pretty fast, but it seemed like the DPS didn't scale very well. I tried the Ritualist version, even with decent rings, I couldn't scale it all that well. But then I saw a video of the accuracy stack version on Reddit, and I said, "Oh, that looks so fast!" And if you've ever watched my streams, you know I go for speed runs. So I thought, okay, that seems interesting. But then I watch him kill a boss, and it's a 1 million HP boss, and it takes him like 10 seconds. Oh, I'm going, okay, well, this needs work, and here we go. I worked on it. So today we'll be going through quite a few variations of this build, what the interactions are, why we're doing it, and why I'm doing it with Amazon. So, let's get started. First and foremost, why Amazon? So if you listened to it earlier, I said accuracy stack, and that should already give you one big heads up as to what we're doing. We have Critical Strike as part of the Amazon Ascendancy. Chance to hit with attacks can exceed 100%. Gain additional critical hit chance equal to 25% of the excess chance to hit with attacks. This is one of the big reasons why we're going Amazon. And so we're accuracy stacking, which this will help us with our crit chance, and then we also take Falcon Dive, of course, for attack speed per 250 accuracy. We also get to start right in the middle, so we have some nice early nodes to utilize. And we have, of course, our Precision Salvo and Cook, so we have some very nice nodes to utilize here. And then we spec down to the bottom, and we spec up to the top. So, that's first and foremost. We're using Amazon Ascendancy for this version. You can do this with other Ascendancies, and I'll talk a little bit about that, but I do very much enjoy the Amazon version, and will be sticking with this for my Whirling Slash build. The other thing is that as long as you're here, if you do have a high accuracy rating weapon, you can use Penetrate. And that converts some of the accuracy rating on your spear to physical damage. So we get to scale a lot of physical damage in this build. If you are not using a rare spear with high accuracy rating, you would just unspec these 2 points and take in for the kill. And I will show you later with the Tangle Tongue. Very standard item. Lots of people have a pretty good Tangle Tongue already. It still kills extremely quickly. The main difference is Tangle Tongue will not have this kind of attack speed, attacks per second, with the accuracy rating. So you're gonna feel a lot slower with Tangle Tongue, which you'll see later in this video. But it is still extremely workable. Now you'll notice I didn't actually take in for the kill and penetrate. I took Stalking Panther, and if you just took a peek at my inventory, you'll probably understand why. So this is actually such a great note, and it relates to the evasion rating from body armor, helmet, gloves, and boots. So we double the helmet, gloves, and boots, and we have the evasion from our body armor. Now, this is amazing because we don't actually need to wear an evasion body armor. So my Tabula Rasa with 0 evasion will continue having 0 evasion, and we don't lose anything there. But our 1000 evasion boots, we can scale to 2000 evasion. So we get a lot of evasion, and I have some gloves with accuracy, attack speed, evasion. And then in the Tabula, I actually slotted everything to have evasion percent. So we can get a ton of evasion out of the Tabula. Now you're saying, Glitch, that's really expensive. Those jewels are probably 3 to 5 divs a piece. The Tabula is whatever it is now, 80 divs. This is not cheap. And I understand. In this video, I will show with different pieces, especially ES pieces. So we have energy shield pieces. We have a high-end one with Barbaric Strength. We have one just with Spirit. This one's pretty high-end too. You would get something a lot cheaper, but it's just to show some of the different variants you can do. And the speed. So I'll even show you the Tangle Ton right now. This is our speed with a rare spear, a very good rare spear. This is what it looks like with the Tangle Ton, just straight swapping. You can see there is a significant difference, but I mean that's the whole point. Is what is your budget? How much do you want to spend on the build? Right now, what I'm wearing is extremely expensive. This is a build I was working with a friend, and I'm borrowing. He's a hideout warrior. He got all the gear for this. It's his gear, so I'm borrowing it, except for the tabula and some of the jewels and such. But for the most part, I'm borrowing the gear. And I mean, a Leica CD. But we have accuracy on every single piece. So we have accuracy on the helmet, rings, gloves, the spear. If you're going to go with a rare spear, you very much want accuracy for this build. Otherwise, I would just go Tangle Tongue. And then, of course, on the boots, we are just trying to min-max evasion and try and get some life, res, dex, whatever we can fit there. This is a very, very high-end piece of equipment right here. Very good res rolls. All T1. I think everything's T1 here. I got these for dirt cheap. 20 exalts, slammed the second socket, cost nothing. Without movement speed, boots were really cheap. There were so many on the market that you could look for. These gloves were very expensive because of the suffixes. So if you look, we have attack speed, melee skills, and crit damage. The melee skills is very much min-maxed here. If you're looking on a budget, you can get much cheaper gloves with just attack speed, crit damage even, maybe 1 div with accuracy rating. So you have a lot of options there. You just want to either maximize your evasion through this piece, or you can also get one with flats, which I have here. You have accuracy with flats, attack speed, leech. This was also very cheap, because for most build, accuracy is considered a dead stat. I think I paid maybe 2-3 divs for this one. So we have, right now, the pieces for this build are very budget. The shield costs almost nothing. Helmets were with 450 evasion, energy shield, and the T1 accuracy were 5 divs tops. And then go up depending on how good the suffixes are. The one that you're seeing here would probably be around 50 plus divs, but I had some good luck getting some cheaper ones. This was, I think, 10 divs, and still has full T1 on the prefixes with crit chance, int, and lightning res. And we have some other options that were even far cheaper. This was almost nothing. So yeah, there you go. So what does the tree look like? Why did we choose these items? What can we do? What else can we do? First, we're speccing all the way through the bottom. Precision Salvo is just a ton of attack speed and accuracy. And remember, we're scaling our attack speed with accuracy. And we're scaling crit chance with accuracy. So this is just basically double value on all of these nodes, attack speed, accuracy, all the way through. We have Falcon Dive. Obviously, this is our main scaling for attack speed. We're going to be using a From Nothing with Dance with Death to grab the 2 main notables here, and Acceleration. A lot of the notables here or the small passives aren't great. You're going to spend a lot grabbing these small passives. That being said, increased damage with spears, increased attack speed with spears, the 10% accuracy rating here, they are good nodes. So if you aren't going to be using, let's say, an Against the Darkness or Heroic Tragedy for this slot, you can invest the points here. So we also spec up to the top. We have our Heartbreaking, Heart-Stopping Struck Through. And I actually recommend, so a lot of people I've seen spec to here, Proficiency, but this is only 4 points away, and you get to grab, and you get it in the same area as your Time Loss. So I have a Time Loss here with Lightning, Accuracy, Double Crit. And then so this 25 Dex node gets my Accuracy and Double Crit. And then these small ones get my Lightning and Accuracy, Lightning Accuracy. So it's pretty, I find it pretty efficient. Even more so if you decide not to take Subterfuge and you spec through the top here. This is no longer a wasted point. You can also, on the path, take Throat Seeker as well. So Subterfuge is your defensive version. You spec through the top here. On the left, Subterfuge. And then if you want to go more offensive, you can go through the right and grab Throat Seeker. These nodes over here are also kind of nice. So we do deal a good amount of lightning damage in the build. Our main bossing damage comes from Primal Strikes, which does scale off of lightning damage. So we have Exposed to the Storm, which is very good. And then the other part is that we can put a lightning exposure in our whirling slash to get lightning exposure on enemies, which gives us more crit chance. So this is a very nice note to take. We have it on the Megalo. And when we're talking about annoyance, we have blurred motion, attack speed, accuracy rating, dex percent. Very similar to precision salvo, except it's quite far, so you're going to need to anoint it or get it on a Megalo. Right now, blurred motion Megalos are very cheap, and I will, on the Discord, have a Megalo link to show good two notable options. So check out the Discord too if you haven't already joined. So there we go. These are the two variants of how to path through to the top section. Now, what are we doing? This is probably no-brainer to take these crit nodes. And down here we have our Mindful Awareness. You can also unspec Mindful Awareness, Evasion, Flow Like Water, and Crit Chance, and use just some nodes in the Dorito. The Dorito here. So if you, let's say, don't have enough points to get all the way to Mindful Awareness, you can just grab a couple points in the Dorito and not spec these 4 points. Another nice one is Finesse. Finesse does add a decent bit of accuracy, and this is flat accuracy, local accuracy, for the accuracy rating gained from it. But in this, what you're going to be seeing right now is using a Heroic Tragedy. The next part is that I'm only level 94. If you do end up getting more points, level up, you can spec the Giant Slayer. This is a huge damage increase from 4 points. And if you decide, let's say, I don't want to use Subterfuge, and I will show why after, that you might not want to use it, you could also just unspec these points and go towards Pinpoint Shot. So right now, with the Tabula, we still have 840 Energy Shield and 86% Evasion. This is for min-maxing your speed and damage, but not necessarily survivability. In the Heroic, the two main Heroic Tragedies, we went through a lot of them. The two main ones that I very much liked were the 4519 and the 3208. So the 4519 has 2 accuracy rating nodes and a melee damage node. Sorry, 3 accuracy rating and a melee damage. The unfortunate part is they were spread out between different diamonds. It would have been more efficient if there were just 2 accuracy here, accuracy melee here. But again, we went through so many. This was the most offensive-oriented Heroic Tragedy that we could find. And then there's also the 3208, which is much more mixed. We have physical, and again, if you are using a rare spear, which has a lot of physical damage, you'll want these a lot. The more physical percent that you can scale, the better. And we have an ES percent and accuracy rating. So we have 2 really good diamonds. This is also an attack speed node. And if you get it with Verana, then this becomes energy shield per 2 strength. However, the build is very mana hungry, and I do not necessarily recommend giving up your mana for energy shield percent, though it does boost your defensive later. The other really nice place to put a Heroic Tragedy is right here, because you can get, I don't think this is very useful for this slot, but you can get 2 notables for 4 total points in the Hunter's Talisman and Lucky Rabbit's Foot slot. The only unfortunate part is that you probably will want something that has at least 4 good notables across 2 of these clusters, because Versatile Arms is still quite good. Gives some stats, attack speed, and accuracy rating with one-handed weapons, which a spear is one-handed. So, as you can see, you would be losing your Versatile Arms to take on these nodes. So if you get, especially if you get 2 good notables here at this charm slot, it's very powerful. And we do have some options. I've seen maybe physical with ES. There are some very nice combos that you can get here. I'm not going to go through all the Heroic Tragedies we've seen. That would take way too long. So, how does this build work? What are the skill interactions? First and foremost, we need 2 Whirling Slashes. If you haven't seen a Whirling Slash build yet, this is the main point. Whirling Slash, the devs, when they coded it, made it a staged skill, meaning that every time you use it up to 3 stages, it grows. So if you see, you see the area of effect, use it once more, it's a little bit bigger, once more, maximum stage. So it's a stage skill. And we can take advantage of this in a slightly bugged interact. I would assume that this was not intended, in that we can have 1 Whirling Slash set up, with all the area of effect, and then the second one with all our damage. And the area of effect one will, all the area of effect nodes, and including stuff like Font of Rage, will persist into the main one. So it carries the lingering effects of the first Whirling Slash, and then we can deal damage with pure damage Whirling Slash. And you'll see that I have it spec to level 14, and you can see why. So even with our decent mana pool of 704, we are burning through mana quite quickly. And this is with a very low Whirling Slash, a 9 with +5, and we have Inspiration in it. And as you can see, this is our max size without the base AoE layer. So, how does it work? We swap to another weapon. This doesn't really matter, but it has to be a spear. Then we can use our Whirling Slash. This is our AoE one, and in the tree we have AoE nodes spec'd for set 2. And this is the only swapping that you're going to do. So we have AoE nodes spec'd in set 2. There's also another one up here, which you can take if you take the Deepest Tower variant, using these nodes here, because you will just normally spec all the way up here, and you will have just enough to grab Colossal Weapon from even more area than that. And I'll show you that later. So now you have your base Whirling Slash. And this is, so see how much larger that is? Now, the next thing about Whirling Slash is it picks up on-ground effects. We are going to be carrying some Wake of Destruction. Did not spec enough decks. That is awkward.
Go on.
I'll try not to cook it up a second time.
Did not spec enough decks. That is my bad.
Speak.
A new day dawns.
Lightning and Dex. So, we apply our base layer.
What is it?
Back to basics.
We apply our base layer. Sorry about all that. Now it becomes a lightning Whirling Slash. And this will actually, if you read the tooltip of Whirling, will actually apply the shock to enemies, which is the same thing as the Incinerate version, which applies the Ignite. Here we get to apply shock to everything. And it gains 50% of damage as the corresponding type, which is lightning for us. So we do deal a little bit of lightning damage. And the part of the interaction is that this will regularly shock enemies. Keep in mind that when you do consume shock on an enemy, it takes a little bit to reapply it. So we can regularly reapply shock using the Whirlwind while we're bossing, and our Primal Strike then will consume shocks to deal more damage. Refresh and consume shocks. And as you can see, we are moving quite fast. So, let's go take a quick look at how Zesh looks with this build.
Never thought leaving home would one day lead me to another realm.
Swap. This is our AoE setup. We apply the Whirling Slash. We apply the Shock Ground. And swap back. The other thing that you can do is that if you get more Spirit, you can use a companion that has some kind of Shock Ground effect. And also stuff like Periodic Invulnerability, extra Haste Aura, and extra Physical Damage Aura are all good mods to get on a companion. I don't have that ready for this video, though. So part of this, and the reason that we're not losing mana, or it doesn't look like we're losing mana, is because we are very much utilizing mana leech. We have you need at least one piece with mana leech in this build. And as you probably noticed, we are always capped rage. So when I talk about Megalos later, Battle Trance is one of those really good notables that's probably undervalued right now, especially for this build, because it gives us +8 maximum rage. And rage is a pure unique multiplier. So we get to spend 2 minutes getting to know the monsters here a little bit better. And one thing that you'll notice is that this build is very similar, so we are actually moving with Whirling Slash. We do not actually walk or do anything, but we're moving everywhere with Whirling Slash. Similar to the Tempest Flurry Javelins of last sleep, this is our movement. One thing about the biggest downside about this build is that it gets caught on everything. And when I show you some examples of mapping later, you will probably notice it, that I will just randomly get stuck on stuff that is invisible. Because movement attacks get stuck on everything. Movement attacks get stuck on absolutely everything. The bossing, you're going to use a Rapid Assault to just build up a lot of quick combo, and then we're going to finish the fight with Primal Strikes. So I will be honest that this build, that the Tabula Rasa is not going to scale your damage that much higher, and I will go ahead and swap that out now to show you. But I just thought it was fun to go ahead and... Okay, so let's go back to using normal chess pieces.
Yes.
Let's put the very high-end barbaric strength chess piece that we have. One thing that you probably notice is I set aside an Ascendancy. Because we already spec all the way through to the bottom here, Ascendancy is not actually that far. Jack of all trades is not actually that far. So for 5 points, you can spec Jack of all trades. That being said, you lose out on the ability to get accuracy, to get plus melee skills, crit damage, and defensive layers through the Amulet slot. In PoBing, the extra 5 points that you spend and the loss of the rest of the stats are not worth it. But if you do have one and you want to make attributes easier, as you can tell, I'm struggling with just a tiny little bit on attribute because it is very tight to run. We do need a certain amount of strength, dex, and int for the whole process.
Speak.
Time to change my ways.
There we go. Now we have a barbaric strength 1 on. You'll see our evasion, our energy shield skyrocketed, absolutely skyrocketed. We have 2300 shield. We've got very good evasion. We still have over 80% evasion. So generally, I don't recommend the tabula, but it is fun to just look at and play. So there's that. In the notables, if you haven't seen these before, you can get an essence that applies, similar to a Megalomaniac, applies a random notable to a chess piece. And similar to, so if you remember, you can use this to apply notable like we have here. Barbaric Strength is probably one of the best ones that you can get. If you do want to use this build, I highly recommend going a pure energy shield with Stalking Panther. So you get no downside to this, and you get all the upside of stacking evasion in other pieces. Let's go ahead and do maybe a quick map. I did not set aside a map for myself. I apologize. Again, I'm not going to be switching out anything. I'm not going to be switching out anything for these. And this is probably a really good map to show you just how much you'll get stuck on stuff. The one thing about Tempest Flurry versus Whirling Slash, as you'll see, I'm just going to press it once, it's more of a hop. Tempest Flurry was much more fluid in how it moved. This is like you're doing multiple little hops. And if you will get caught on stuff regularly. So, that is one thing to consider. Still. This, apply, and we're ready to go. Oops. This.
Speed.
Adapt or die.
Go on.
Not wrong with a new approach.
Again, there's a lot of variants I wanted to show. I don't have the perfect gear for all of them, so... I've had to swap a little bit on the fly if I want to show the different variants.
Adapt or die.
Okay, this should work. Nope, we're gonna apply our base layer, get shocked, we swap, and I want to set one. And we start moving.
Wind fury.
See, I'm getting stuck on a lot of stuff. This is a map with a lot of jagged edges and corridors and doorways to make it through. So this is, again, as I'm saying, this is going to be pretty much the main downside to this build, is any maps that are tighter. Stuff like Crypt, Steppe, Savannah are amazing with this build because they're more open. Sandspit is really fun. You just do a big circuit. So it will definitely take getting practice. If you played Tempest Flurry last league, you're probably aware of how this feels for the first few times that you use it. I've been playing this for a couple of days. I still get stuck on stuff. We basically just run around, run over everything with a very ethical combo-based gameplay, and that is not a lie. We are very ethically using 2 Whirling Slashes combo together, and even our bossing takes a combo, so this is an entirely ethical build, just as Jonathan intended. Then we did the loop, set this. Again, you don't even need... Oh, we even got pulled. Anyway, it's fine. We got pulled because there's full ground in this map. And there you go, there's a map with this build. So, this is the main super high-end variant, and I'm going to go through the stat priorities a little bit further now because I will be showing you some lower-end items. Obviously, you want to be capped res, that's very important. I would say that on a budget, skip any plus melee skills. It is very expensive to get plus melee skills with the other good offensive suffixes on the bracers. It is very expensive to try and get crit and other stats on the amulet. The one thing about the amulet, or if you skip out on a notable, because good chess pieces with a notable on it are very expensive. There is a similar one to this that is up for mere service, better, obviously, but it's a premier service. So that's to give you an example of just how much a piece like this would cost you. So I'm going to go ahead and take out the more expensive items and use my more budget pieces, budget-oriented pieces. Very nice helmet. I will miss it after. I will definitely miss it. Then you can also go with Deepest Tower, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So there we go, we have more budget, and now we have a bit more spirit from the chest piece. Now we have more spirit from the chest piece, and what you can do, also, you can also get this from the amulet as well, if you don't have the budget to get a good spirit chest piece. Once you have enough spirit, though, you can activate Blasphemy, and you can either use something like Temporal Chains or Enfeeble to help with your survivability as well. So I will be showing that there. It was actually quite important for us to get a Solar Amulet, as we are going to be using Precision and Clarity as supports. So with Ghost Dance, Wind Dancer, and Herald of Thunder, that actually takes 110 Spirit, which will give you enough just off of the Solar Amulet implicit. But if you want to get Blasphemy, or you want to use a Companion, or something of that sort, you will need to get Spirit from other sources, and you can do that from the Amulet, or the chest piece, or both. Well, so just to give you some examples. This I've had for a long time. I only paid a couple divs for it, but I feel like they've gotten a bit more expensive for 60 spirit amulets with crit damage and plus melee skills. So I showed you this Heroic Tragedy. This is remember the 3208 and the 4519 are my favorites that I found. If you do not want to go with a Heroic Tragedy, then just simply remove it, and you can unspec a lot of these points. If you're going to be using Tangle Tongue, Killer Instinct is not available to you because you will not be on full life, and you will actually need to probably decide and either flask regularly or use some leech. Obviously, you're not going to need the rest of these. Stylebender is not the worst node. Again, you can decide to use these. So I'm going to show you without a Heroic Tragedy now. We have more points. So, since we're using Tangle Tongue, Killer Instinct is off the table. And now you can get things like Giant Slayer. You can get Maiming Strike. If you pack on the left here, you have Blinding Strike. If you pack on the right, you have Throat Seeker. You have chance to reapply Shock on consuming it. You have Conservative Casting. It is very mana hungry, so Conservative Casting is available to you as well. And you can also go for Deepest Tower. If they're mixing Heroic Tragedy and Deepest Tower is not very feasible, in my opinion. So, yeah. Deepest Tower, you will take a big hit on defensive layer, but it is also easier to get Spirit from your Deepest Tower. That being said, a 30 Spirit is probably a bit more expensive. Additional set 2 points. If you give up a few points somewhere else, so now we don't need the decks as much. I could unspec these and get some more points. We could eventually get Colossal Weapon. You do need to spend 1 normal point, so it is not enough to... You do not have enough with the 8 additional to get all the way there. You do need...
If at first you don't succeed...
What? We have Deepest Tower now. And we no longer will need Subterfuge, because Deepest Tower gives us absolutely nothing for offensive layer. So now we have some additional points that we can spend. We can go for a little bit more. Over, and then take my acceleration back. this node here. Then we have 2 lingering points. I can just allocate some.
Succeed.
And I will also use a much cheaper Megalo. I'll be using my Overwhelming Presence Megalo. Or sorry, Overwhelming Shark Megalo.
I speak.
Adapt. Adapt or
Done.
die.
Alright, so we have our much more budget-oriented build. I will change out the rings as well for some cheaper rings that I own, since I do not own these rings. And then we will double check on our resist lines. These were the rings I was using previously. And our resist look terrible right now. Need to remove some old rings. Could use cheaper boots. Better on the res. I need 1 lightning to fire. We'll see now. I think we're ready to go with the much cheaper build. So, as I showed, attributes are probably a little tight, much tighter.
I speak.
Back to
Right now. Right.
back to basics.
Go on.
If it
I forgot what I know in the patch they mentioned hotkeys for this. I totally forgot what they would be. As you can see, we are still rocking a decent 62% evasion with 1400 shield. And we have I forgot to spec point. Damage.
time to change my ways.
And we're looking a lot better on this front. We have enough attributes. We have quite a bit more spirit ready to go. And I will use that for Overwhelming Presence. So this will help with stunning enemies. You can also use that to use other supports, such as Herbalism or Vitality or Cannibalism, which is also a very good choice if you're going to be using Tangle Time. Actually, I may as well show that and show how the life is supported. Find out where I left it. Berserk is another good option, but keep in mind you will need Life Leech for that as well, and it will not allow you to use Killer Instants either. But we are more spec'd out. We have just about capped res. And we can go ahead and do some runs.
Never thought leaving home would one day lead me to another realm. Die the
So as you can see, we're moving much slower. And that's a lot to do with the attack speed difference on the Tangle Tongue and the loss of accuracy. The other thing about this helmet is that it requires the enemy to be in your presence. So it also reduces your presence area of effect, meaning that you will see that you're going to be doing a lot less damage until you are much closer to the enemy. This is where something like Temporal Chains will help significantly. You can also use the Enfeeble one to reduce the damage that you will take from those enemies as well. As you can see, our energy shield took a huge hit from losing the helmet. 400 ES helmets with good accuracy are very inexpensive, but for damage purposes, Deepest Tower is significantly better. Depending on your split between what kind of content you run, you will be much better off using an energy shield plus accuracy helmet. Plus, it'll be a lot easier to deal with the resist too. That is one thing that cannot be understated. So that's the main part of the build. Hope you enjoy it. I will show you some options with Simulacrum in just a second. And one thing that I don't know if it's bugged or not, but we are using Culmination on Primal. Culmination is supposed to give you additional damage for gaining combo, but my understanding is you're supposed to lose all combo on use. The thing is, if you were watching, if you go back and pause the video and go back a little bit, you'll see that we're building a combo using Rapid Assault, and Primal Strikes, the combo counter is still there. So I'm not sure if that interaction is working properly when you're using Primal and the combo count is not going down. Just say that you can build combo from the skill itself, so I'm not sure if that interaction is intended or not.
Double as is.
There you go. There's with a much more budget-oriented setup. Deepest Towers without Spirit or minimal Spirit are much cheaper. These rings were very inexpensive. This has dead mod, low res, low int, subpar accuracy and physical. This is double defensive. You can ignore the +3. It's much cheaper if you ignore the +3. You can probably pick up for 1-2 divs, something similar without the +3. Tangle Tongue is, depending on the rolls you get, decently expensive. This one would be much more expensive, but something with even 1% less on the critical damage bonus enchant is going to run you sub 10 divs for something similar. And then you can always just scale it down a little bit depending on what your budget is. So as you can see, Tangle Tongue still worked very well. These gloves were inexpensive, at the time anyway. Hopefully they stay inexpensive. We have a 25-28 Ingenuity with Fire Res. This cost me 1 div. The boots, as I mentioned, were very cheap, and I corrupted a few myself. This one is my very heavy res set of boots. Lycoside is dirt cheap, like under half a div, even with good block chance to socket. It was just very cheap. And deepest. So the most expensive piece that you're seeing here is the chest piece. I didn't have a good mid-range chest piece to show the build with, but you can give up on some spirit. Either get the spirit on the amulet. You also don't need all of the supports, and you also don't need blasphemy, though it is nice to have. That's it. That's the end of the video for me. I'll be showing a quick simulacrum and you can stick around to watch that, or let me know. There's going to be a max roll in the description, and let me know if you have any questions. I will be posting trade links in the Discord for all the key pieces, as well as megalos, things like that. Just a quick reminder, we have the... Oh, I forgot to... Right now, at the time of this video, these jewels were very inexpensive, with accuracy, double crits, and evasion. We're talking about 1-2 divs a piece, and you don't need that many. We are using 2 in this build. The Dance with Death was similarly 1 to 2 divs, depending on the day. The time loss, depending on the rolls you get and how many deadlines they have, are a bit more expensive, so that is one thing to consider. And the heroic tragedies are a huge pain in the ass to sort through. So, again, I gave you 2 heroic tragedy numbers that I think are very good. You can always ask me on the Discord if you think a heroic tragedy is good or not. You can send me pictures and screenshots of the notables in the range, and then we can always discuss that. Otherwise, enjoy.
Feels like I've stepped into a bad dream.
Remember this ramshackle place. A second house stood against ceremony, horrors, and symbolic.
Wind's fury!
Even your time to at last test your limits.
I will note, though, if you want to play simu, I would very much recommend going Subterfuge and not the Deepest Tower setup. But again, Deepest Tower is very inexpensive. The other thing that you can also do is set up Convalescence on your weapon swap. You can always swap to it and get your energy shield recharging much more quickly. In terms of time lost, the stats that you would probably want are either double crit or increased effective notables and crit. I will show you an example of that as well. Wish I could access my stash more easily from here. Guess not. If you are going to be using Deepest Tower, there is a line called Presence Area of Effect, which can be very useful, as you can counteract that. You can also have a Deepest Tower Crangle Divine for reduction of Presence Area of Effect. So you can have it as low as 39% on the reduced Presence Area of Effect, which is a nice little boost. Have a jewel somewhere. This one as well, which is quite nice with magnitude. Increased presence area of effect, magnitude of shock, and critical damage bonus. So, one thing to note about increased effective notable passive skills, and the reason that it is one of the recommended, you'll see that it is a suffix and takes up a spot from crit. So here we have 2 crit lines. Here, this much cheaper Time Lost Sapphire only has 1 crit line and increased effective notables. This will actually scale stuff like Struck Through. So this local 1.1% or this 1% local critical chance will get scaled to 1.22. That's a huge gain. It also increases its own notable passive skills. So you'll see that the crit damage bonus is only supposed to be 9%. And when you look at it, oh, I have 10% here. It's only supposed to be 8% presence area effect. I have 9%. So that increased effective notable passives is a very strong line. I don't think it's been discussed enough. They never mentioned adding it to the game. And I remember the first time I rolled it, because I am a secondless player at heart, the first time I rolled it on a time loss, I'm going, wait a second. Where did this come from? When did they add this? And that was only a few days into the league, and oh my god, I'm in love with the increased effective notable lines. Stuff like attributes will scale up as well, so the 25 dex that I'm getting from the quarterstaff tree does get improved. So 25 dex goes to 30 dex. I'm pretty sure I had a better one, but anyway. And if you look, presence, as you can tell, it is not large at all with this helmet, which is why if you take out this jewel, presence is tiny. Presence is tiny. So remember that the enemies have to be in your presence for the helmet to take effect, which does scale a ton of our damage using these nodes. And if you didn't know, the reason why Deepest Tower gives you so much damage is because lucky damage, or lucky strikes, rolls twice. It will roll your critical, it will roll your, and the damage roll itself. So if you see lightning rolls are always very wide, 4 to 51, you can roll a 4, you can roll a 51. Lucky means that those lines will reroll, and it'll take the highest value. Same with crits. Lucky will reroll crits. So if you do want to take Stars Align, it could also be valuable to take Throat Seeker, because it is a lot of crit damage bonus at the expense of crit chance. But because we have Lucky, and Lucky will improve our actual effective crit, that is a very strong proposition. The other thing to note is that Lucky is not going to be accounted for in your tooltip. So, especially since it's conditional, these nodes will not be counted for in the tooltip. There's also one other note. Finality finally got fixed, and you can now allocate it or receive it on a Megalo. 120% increased damage with hits against enemies that are on low life. That being said, again, as I mentioned, blurred motion is very important. So to even consider using Finality, you have to at least have a Megalo or an Anoint with blurred motion, and then have the other one with Finality, and that would lock you into using Deepest Tower. I got this Megalo very early in the league for only a few divs. It was Zone of Control and Overwhelming Strike. Zone of Control scales my curses, and does an extra slow with the curse, which is what we were doing with Blasphemy, and then I just have a generic crit chance, crit damage, and stun. In terms of spears, you want attack speed, crit damage, crit chance, and ideally good accuracy and physical damage. Getting those kinds of spears is very expensive. I managed to pick one up earlier for what I consider to be a pretty decent price. But it's definitely not cheap. Tangle Tongue is going to be very easy to obtain, much easier to find, get good rolls on, cheaper overall, but as you can tell, we are moving much more slowly. So that's going to be the trade-off that you make. It could be something that you start with the Tangle Tongue, eventually get your rare spear. The unfortunate part also is that it seems that people weren't rolling that many rare spears, so there was a huge gap in the market. My trade search for the spear only had 4 results. And that's including the mirror spear that was posted today by TFT. In terms of bases, Sea Glass is the ideal base for this build, as it provides a lot of crit chance base, as well as is tied for the top for attack speed. Grand Spears are arguably the worst, as they will have the lowest attack speed, despite having the most physical damage. They will have the lowest attack speed. Spike Spear is also pretty good, as it will add more damage, more physical damage, at the expense of 3.5% base crit chance. So there are those things to consider. I personally bought a Flying Spear, as I mentioned. There is a huge gap in the market for mid-rolled spears, probably because, thanks to Tangle Tongue, people weren't buying them. You either go for the high end, or you don't craft at all. So I have friends with spears, so again, I'm borrowing all this gear. Borrowing a lot of gear. So here's some examples of some higher end spears. This is the spear that Aiko crafted. Very strong spear. Elemental damage with attacks will scale things like flats on gloves. So there's lightning damage, lightning. I have lightning here. I have cold. This will scale all of that. but you lose the accuracy. However, it is more generic. It means that if you ever want to use it with a different character, a different Ascendancy, this is a great this type of stat line is a great option. Here's the very high-end one that I was borrowing and showing before. Very good accuracy, very good flats. We have a merciless roll here. Crit chance, crit attack speed, and crit damage bonus on a sea glass. You're seeing we have a 14.97 crit chance. Here's the one I purchased earlier. It's a flying spear. The projectile speed does not help us in our build, but we do have very good attack speed. It rolled a 4.69 on the crit chance, meaning that we hit almost 10% on crit chance, and it has a crit damage bonus as well, with accuracy and decent physical damage. It's not the best I've seen, but, I mean, look, the market had nothing available. Again, I'm not pressing any flask, I'm not doing anything else, I am just holding right click, like I did last league in my stunling. And we let everything take it away for us.
Now there's a nice surprise.
So, make sure you join the Discord, get the trade links for the different items with the stat priorities, especially the Megalos. I will not be posting the Megalos or discussions for the Megalos in the max roll. Last time I did that, the Chinese bots, I hate to say it, but it was some Chinese bots, repriced their Megalos 10x within an hour of me posting the guide. So, join the Discord if you want the full discussion on that. But otherwise, know that a Megalo can be a very valuable piece for your build. If you like the loot filter, I haven't updated it for tiered items, but if you like the loot filter, that download or subscription can also be done on the Discord. And as an added reminder, I do primarily stream on Twitch, including first looks at new builds that I'm working on, and just general content play, including speedruns. Last league, my sub 6-minute Sekimus was done on Twitch before being posted to YouTube.
Have enough in the pack already.
Tiny little Scarecrow Arena and this one are my least favorite. They spawn in and hit you very quickly. At least they nerfed the enemies in Simulacrum. At the beginning of last league, the enemies had a lot of iframes coming out of the walls, and they would end up pushing you around before you could even hit them, jumping in, slamming you, and doing all that fun stuff. All that fun stuff. Menu with a different spear, how different it'll look. Again, I'm not even going to change the rest of the gear, I'm just going to put on the new spear. And now we are moving significantly faster. I'm also using a very low level Whirling Slash right now. This is mostly because of movement in mapping. And making sure that you have enough mana to move between places. In Sim, if you are going to be doing Simu, you can use a much higher level Whirling Slash. That's going to be very effective as well to deal with what's that going? A higher level Whirling Slash will be much more effective for simi purposes, as you will almost always have an opportunity to leech off an enemy. But otherwise, mapping purposes, enemies are a lot weaker. You can use a lower level Whirling Slash. So remember, my Whirling Slash is only level 9 right now. Oh, actually, sorry, 12, because I had left the amulet with +3. Normally, for a simu, I would probably recommend taking a 15 to 17.
I'll take that. The eye of the storm.
Despite it being significantly higher level, you generally don't have any issue with the mana. We're able to continue leeching. One nice part about this is I no longer have to think as much about Lightning Spear. Lightning Spear was constantly missing, and I hated it, and it was very annoying. This is much more easy to manage. See that we are moving significantly faster, we are dealing more damage, thanks to the spear. So again, rare spears are ideal for this build. If you can get a pretty good roll, I mentioned the stats, the good stats earlier. Got it jumping all over the place. Final wave.
The eye of the storm.
One thing if you didn't know about Simulacrum, the boss spawns, the mini boss spawns, are fixed on every room. So they will always spawn in the same place every time, meaning that's why I'm camping here in the bottom side, because they will always spawn here. And I can get the early hits on them, apply my deepest tower, and get my stuns off with overwhelming presence.
That was almost a challenge.
Hoping to show my first Megalo for the league, but I guess that's not going to happen.
You shall serve me whether you like it or not.
Well, and there you have it. This is going to be the end of the video. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave some comments down in the YouTube description, comment section, or join the Discord. As always, you'll get notifications for my Twitch, and also any other more personalized help would be much easier to do so through Discord. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope to see you out there whirling around, and I will see you next time.